What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about BCHG. I'll go over LTCN too. Why not? We'll just throw them in together. This isn't at the request of anybody, but somebody pointed this out, and I'm normally good at identifying patterns, but sometimes you get caught up in like your game plan that you forget to look at the picture as a whole. And I want to give a special little shout out to Safi Sheber. I don't know how to pronounce it, man, but one of those has to be right. If not, screw me. Looking at this here, he or she was pointing out that we have a left shoulder here, a head, and then a right shoulder. And if you complete the circles, it looks like kind of like a car, right? Like if you had this window, something like that. I don't know. That's the door. Maybe you have a window up here. You got another door back here. It looks like a car, right? Get your mind out of the gutter. So let's see. So looking at this here, we are kind of near the top of this right shoulder. What would be the right shoulder? We could go up a little bit more, right? You did go, I mean, you're like basically perfect, man. It is basically perfect, literally. The only thing that I have a problem with is the volume profile, but if you look up head and shoulders patterns, you'll see that this is not how the volume should look. But man, I've seen all kinds of volume reads and they still play out, so I mean, whatever, who cares? The people that I learned from, they've even like adopted the same thing that I'm about to tell you, which is that volume apparently just doesn't matter, man, because these patterns, volume profile being ideal or not, they will play out however they want to play out. And absolutely, this is a bearish pattern. It's a bearish topping pattern. You could still break out to the upside. You could, but the odds are, this is a pretty powerful pattern. The odds are you are going to go down. And we even have a measure move for this too, which is really nice. Now, measure moves are ideas. They're not requirements. You can fail to meet a measure move. You can exceed a measure move. But the way you would do it is you take the absolute high of the pattern to the absolute low. That's how almost all patterns are. And then the point of breakout, which would be like roughly here, would take you down to about $1.70. $1.70, you don't say. Well, if you look at the weekly green line here, that's like right there at the 123 moving average. From high or low to high here, that's right there at your 1272, right? Makes sense to me, man. 1272 is actually right at $1.78. So if you were to go a little bit below that, I was even kind of conservative with where I drew the breakout point. You can see it's a little bit still in the pattern. If I was to like try and bring that right there, I mean, that would bring it down to $1.65. Might be spot on, man. And again, it's an idea. It does not have to be hit. It does not have to stop there. It can go through it. It can barely stop above it or fail to meet it entirely. But nonetheless, there's a lot going on with agreeing with this price going down. So if BCHG does move up next week, not by much, man. I very much doubt you'd break too much above $4, if at all. You might be turning around here. But yeah, yep. That's a good eye, man. Just wanted to give you a special shout out because that's, again, I've been looking at this and I've been thinking that it's going down, but I did not see the head and shoulders pattern that you have there, which that is definitely a like beautiful head and shoulders pattern. Honestly, the volume's not right, but again, in my experience, that really doesn't seem to matter. Like it really doesn't. This looks like a busted head and shoulders pattern, and that's okay. What this really looks like for Litecoin is like a bull trap, right? This looks like a bull trap. No volume coming up. You actually have decreasing volume as you're moving up. That's not a good thing. It looks like it wants to go down, man. And you guys know where I think this thing's going. Probably down, below $7, below $6.50 even. If you take this relative low to the relative high here, your 382 is at $8. So absolutely, I think you're going to go below that. But your 0.5 is all the way down at about $6.15. You could find support right there, right? You might go all the way to your 618 or 69 as well. You're in a parabolic structure. These things do have more dramatic drops. Litecoin LTCN itself has less liquidity, so it makes sense as far as the drop that it could have, because even if it went down here, it's still a higher low. And I want to talk about one more thing before we end this thing off. And for everybody who's stayed to watch it this far, I'm glad, because you're probably going to get the more valuable content besides just the price action right now. So just give me a second. And with that, we can continue. I was watching Ethan Gallstad's video earlier today talking about kind of this window of opportunity that's presenting itself right now with LTCN or BCHG. And I know he was talking about, probably like soon, if not already. Ethan, I'm sure you'll let everybody know whenever you do it. You're pretty transparent with your stuff, man. But just saying that specifically because there are some people that like to pretend that you're not. But and no flack to anybody, but like, let's be real, man. I feel like Ethan does a good job at telling us whenever he sells and whenever he buys. He might not say it at the minute, but you guys, it's not his responsibility to hold your hand through all this, right? Like he's not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor. Neither of us are trying to hold anybody's hand, but we are trying to give our genuine opinions to hopefully help anybody who's watching this make money. Like that's the ultimate vibe that I get from him. I hope that's the vibe that I'm giving off, because that's the vibe that I try to portray. I want to help people make smart decisions. That's why I was like a madman saying, don't buy here, it's probably going down. But what I'm trying to say, guys, before I get to the meat and potatoes of this, is we are all to some degree playing against each other, right? Anybody who, there's probably some of us right now who are watching this video who sold up here and bought up here. So if you sold up here, you probably sold to the people who bought up here. If you bought up there, you bought from the people that sold. So we're in a sense playing against each other. We are. It's not like it has to be you versus me or anything like that, but to a certain degree, you do have to look after your own investments. You have to be responsible and take accountability for the gains and for the losses that you make. And every single time that you do make gains, it's likely at the expense of somebody else's loss. There was somebody who bought way up here. There was somebody who sold way up here. You know what I mean? There was somebody who sold way down here. That's how we get the price action. There was someone that bought here. Somebody lost and somebody won. And that's how it's always going to be. We're just here. I'm here. I know Ethan is too, to try and help make more winners than losers, right? We're all, and I'm like, not that I'd be making winners, but like I want to be a winner myself, and I feel like if I get that energy going and I've got other people who want to be winners, we can kind of empower ourselves to be winners, right? And long story short, man, I'm getting off topic here, but what I'm trying to say, what I was really trying to say before all of this, is that just something to keep in mind, right? We are to a certain degree all playing against each other. Yes, we're playing against the big money, but we're also playing against the small money too. Anybody participate? This is a stock market crypto casino, man. And the house doesn't win. It's the individuals that win, right? And the house can lose, the individuals can lose. Like it's just how it is. But what I'm trying to get what I'm trying to say before I got off topic there is that what was I trying to say? Oh yeah, what Ethan was saying in his video earlier is that the window of opportunity for long-term capital gains is closing. And that's why he was talking about buying around these areas, even though it's up a little bit, buying around these areas, because even if it does go down, he wants to not worry, and I'm sure a lot of you want to not worry about short-term capital gains versus long-term. Because wouldn't it suck? Wouldn't it absolutely suck if you could have bought here, maybe it goes down 10% or whatever from here, 20%, and it goes all the way up to here. Let's say right now it's January 2024. Let's say it was like December or the first week of January, and that's where LTCN topped off, or maybe it was all the way up here, right, by that time, and you're just shy of hitting a year by that amount of time. And whenever it does drop off, it'll drop off 25% in a week, 50% in a week. As far as like waiting on the gains goes, if you're a week or two away from those gains, the long-term capital gains tax bracket, you might be stuck in a position where you feel like you should wait, even if the price is about to drop. And I want to touch on a couple of things. First and foremost, from personal experience, whenever you get in, wherever you think the price is going to be, instead of having this frame of mind where it's like, I need to sell after this date, I don't care what the price does, I'm going to sell after this date so I can claim the long-term capital gains. If you feel like the top is in, pay the short-term gains, because it's much better than seeing a 50% loss. You could have sold up here, still paid the taxes, which would have sucked, instead of long-term capital gains. But now you sell down here, you still got to pay long-term capital gains, which are at a better tax rate. But if you sold up here, that overall tax that you would have paid would have been greater, but the overall money that you would have kept in your pocket would have been greater as well. So, and that's why we're all here. Again, floating back to the idea that we're all here to make money. So what I'm trying to say is, let's get an idea of when is this window of opportunity going to close before the buy and hold for a year scenario stops becoming beneficial, right? Because at some point, if it was like October, buying and holding for a year is probably not going to do you well. Probably not. So let's go over this. Okay, so real quick, the absolute high for LTCN came in right here on November 2020. Came in on November 2020. And you were still at these areas. You were still pretty high still until May 2021, right? You were in a distribution phase. Here you're in accumulation phase. Here you're in a distribution phase. So here, November 2020. Here, May 2021. Okay. The bull market, at least for Litecoin, let's go to Litecoin specifically real quick. May 2021 was where the actual high was, right? The absolute high. So you were still in this area for LTCN where you were at near your highs, not at your high, but near your highs, even whenever LTC itself was at its highs. But all the way back in, I think it wasn't it December of 2020? Something like that over here. Your actual all-time high on LTCN was well before, well before. I want to make sure that I got that right, actually. LTCN. November, I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought it was December. November. Come on now. This one right here. So really, like realistically speaking, on a time basis, from the time that LTCN topped to where LTC topped, that was a 24-week difference. Now, again, granted, LTCN did have a distribution phase where it was more or less hanging out at these areas. But if it was up here, if it was all the way up here and you were getting near the end of the bull market, you're near the end of the bull market, and you see this drop, I would really wonder how many people would have the wherewithal, the gumption, the nuts to hold through this and not panic sell. Because at that point, right, like you're thinking it's going to do this, really, right? Like that's what you're going to think is going to happen. You think it's the end of it. You wouldn't really expect that to happen. So before you want to play this emotional rodeo with yourself, where you can see if you can just hold on and hopefully get prices back up there, which that doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does, as you can see here. Sometimes you do get fake outs. But assuming that doesn't happen, really, you've got about, again, 24 weeks before the bull market ended for LTC, right? And this ended in May of 2021, where Bitcoin topped off in November of 2021. So again, actually, with this idea, let's do this again real quick. August, September, October, November. This is where Bitcoin topped off, right? That month, which was 26 bars. So essentially you had 50 weeks before Bitcoin topped off is where LTCN topped off, where it had its all-time high. Let's do the same thing for BCH and BCHG. Okay. So BCH topped off in May as well. And then it was sometime in November that you saw this high. This is like when Bitcoin topped off as well, and the real bear market started. You can see the repercussions of that. 26 bars beforehand. And I'm sure we're going to get very similar results here, actually. I bet, because it's the same market nonetheless. And look at that, right? Your all-time high was here, but your technical high was here still in May. So assuming that, it's a 20-bar difference right there. But let me just see here. That was, again, this one was in December, not November. So December, what was it? December 14, 2020, sorry. Here. So before you saw your all-time high in BCH, that was 21 weeks. 21 plus 26, that's 47 weeks, okay? Essentially 50 weeks again, but 47 weeks before Bitcoin topped off. Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin, is projected to top off sometime from what a lot of people expect, from what I expect personally. I would expect that Bitcoin will top off probably after, either somewhere around this line or more likely after it. In fact, I would say between that line and this line here, okay? So let's put a line like right in the middle. We'll go over a few different ideas here, okay? That's like right in the middle, just roughly eyeballing it, right? Maybe it's off by a week, maybe it's, but it's pretty damn close. So we're just going to go off of that. So from the earliest that it could be to get this window of opportunity down, if we were to go 47 weeks for Bitcoin Cash, I mean, at that rate, man, the window of opportunity is already closed for these long-term gains, right? If we were to go from the middle week here that would be, and this is kind of closer to where I expect the bull market to be at an end. I actually think it's going to happen in October personally, but that would put it near October of this year, right? And then if we go all the way to literally the end of 2025, that would still put you just barely a year out from where we are now, just barely, right? February 3rd, that week right there, right? Very, very close. And I will say, personally speaking, I do expect that even if Bitcoin did top off here near June of 2025, I do expect that we will have a closer kind of amount of time between the highs. It won't be as far apart as it was back here, in case anybody's worrying about that. I personally don't think it's going to be as different, or it'll still, I still think that the BCHG and LTCN, the grayscale tops, will probably happen before the BTC tops do, before the actual technical crypto bull market happens. But I don't think it'll be as expanded as it was, previously in the prior cycle. I think they're going to become more prominent. They might run more in correspondence with that stuff. But nonetheless, it's very possible, you guys, that this window of opportunity for long-term capital gains is over. Like, it's very possible that the price action that we're expecting to see with BCHG and LTCN, the highs that I've been calling for, and that Ethan's been calling for, and that other people have been calling for, they could happen sometime this year. It is possible. To me, that seems a little bit far-fetched. I feel like we have more time than that, but it could happen, And again, accept that as a possibility. Even if it's not ideal, accept that as a possibility, because what you don't want to do is see those price targets happen around here and you're like, well, it's like the middle of the bull market, they absolutely have to go back up. No, like if they hit those price targets, man, that might be it. Like, that really might be it. And I'm drawing it here, but I more mean like the time frame here, where BCHG would be way up, right? Let's go to LTCN. I mean, the same thing's really going to be for LTCN as well, like, because it's the same time frame. So I don't know if I need to do that, right? It could be as early as like the middle of this year, you guys, a little like July of this year, which I don't expect. To me, that sounds a bit ridiculous. The only reason that I'm giving that a possibility at all is because that's what we saw before, right? But again, that was off of like the first all-time highs. That was off like really, really, really early, like low amounts of price action to go, right? Like, you didn't really start to move down until closer to the tops of BCH and LTC itself. So for both of these things, right, you had distribution phases. I hope I'm not losing anybody. I hope this is making sense. But you kind of had crazy times, right? So maybe these crazy times are what prevented you from seeing consistent, solid growth, right? This movement up is a lot different than what we're experiencing now, right? It was just a straight, solid move up with just no hesitation at all, where this, you're getting a little bit, it's more constructive, right? So, and you have previous price action to kind of help guide you along the way. But nonetheless, you hovered at these tops. You really didn't start turning down officially until you were closer to the tops of LTC and BCH for the Grayscale Trust. So, putting that in mind, they both topped off around May. That's when they both topped off around, right? So May was 26 bars before Bitcoin topped off. Man, I know, guys, I'm going over so much stuff. I really hope I'm making sense. And if we move that metric down, if LTCN and BCHG do top off near where the underlying assets top off this time, because they kind of did last time, but maybe not. It just depends. Their technical highs were not at the same point. They were well before, but they did linger around those highs. They still distributed for a time. But anyways, that would put you at December of this year at the earliest potential possibility. A more realistic possibility, in my opinion, would be about March, the end of Q1 in 2025. And then, as late as it could go potentially would be sometime in like the middle of 2025. And that's kind of my personal window that I'm expecting for these trusts to top off by, is late Q1 to late Q2. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Somewhere in that range. It could be early Q1 even, but long story short, I hope that helps. I hope it does scare you a little bit, and I'm sorry if it does, but the reason why I'm saying that is I want to kind of portray this sense of urgency. If you're looking to capitalize on long-term capital gains, and this is all inspiration to what Ethan Gallsted's video was earlier, because he was talking about this exact thing. you know, I can see why, and I hope a lot of you see why he's pressing this as an issue. Not again, I'm not a financial advisor. He's not a financial advisor, but it's a good idea, right? Even if you are waiting for lower prices, if that comes in a month, that could be the difference between long-term capital gains or short-term capital gains. And if we go to BCH, I mean, let's just see real quick. Actually, it might be worth it to capitalize on the short-term capital gains, in my opinion. But maybe it's not. But from the current price to $1.70, I mean, that's a 56% difference. Okay, to put that in perspective, if you were to buy at that price and it went back to that high, that's a 3x. Where if you buy at this current price and it goes to that high, that's only a 38% growth. So short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains, you know, paying more taxes or less taxes, you'd still make more money, I think, if you were patient with BCHG, right? LTCN, and I say I think because I don't know. I really don't know. With LTCN, from where it is now to where I think it's going to go, which is probably around here, right? A little bit below that, actually. It's about a 51% drop as well, okay? So probably the same kind of results, right? You got a 53% growth versus potentially, and we don't know because we don't know where the bottom is, but a 3x there as well. So I think that would suffice, that difference would suffice even if you didn't get long-term capital gains claimed, you didn't have that right time frame, it wasn't held for a full year. I still think it would pay off more to wait, even if you claimed short-term gains, than it would be to buy here and claim the long-term gains. But again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is a year's worth of time that we're talking about, essentially, right? Maybe less than that, maybe more than that. A lot can happen, a lot can change. I can be wrong. I'm a human being. You have to decide what's best for you. I'm just throwing out these ideas, comparing it to what we've seen before to try and help anybody get an idea. You know, it's not advice. This is all my opinions. But just speaking personally, if I was looking to buy these things, long-term capital gains does sound nice. It does. It really does. But from personal experience, I've been in a situation where I waited for long-term capital gains, and the difference between selling at where I thought the top was versus being stubborn and trying to get those long-term capital gains, it was sizable, man. We're talking like 6 figures in difference that I could have taken home personally if I just wasn't stubborn. So, and that might be the difference with this, man. We're talking about very serious gains, right? We're talking about very, very serious gains for both of these things. So depending on how much money you put in, the message that I'm really trying to convey amidst all of this, if I could sum it up, is if you want those long-term capital gains, that window's closing. And 2, if you want those long-term capital gains, but you see a prime opportunity to sell and you think that it's the top and you just haven't hit that window yet, get over yourself, swallow your pride, and take your profits. And that's not financial advice, though it should be, but it's not. I'm not a financial advisor. That's not financial advice. It's just my opinion based off of personal experience. My opinions can be wrong. The charts, the price action doesn't give a damn of what my opinions are. But man, I've gone on long enough. I hope that this video helps. I feel like I might have stumbled on my words. I might have, like, you know, going back and forth between all these different charts might have been a little bit confusing, but I hope it helps. I hope it makes sense. And I just hope everybody makes money. I hope you make the best decisions for yourself, whatever it is. And if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all very much. Have a good day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.